As most of you guys have noticed, a lot of the material I present here is geared toward a values-centered approach with women. In other words, instead of letting your dick or your heart make any decisions about women, slow down and let your values speak, particularly your self-respect. And let that self-respect have the final word. And by self-respect, I mean self-respect on a level that you would, without batting an eye, let Penelope Cruz hit the road before you would tolerate an ounce of her bullshit. The point here is that between your values, your heart, and your dick, your values are the only thing that will cover your ass. Strangely enough, your values, especially self-respect, happens to be the biggest obstacle in getting approval and acceptance from most women. I reckon that makes it worth some conversation. We get a lot of good comments here on that very subject. Some of them provide material that is perfect for making videos for this channel. I got one such comment recently. This particular gent had the following to say about sticking to your values with women. And I'm quoting here, "The message is simple. Stay away from long-term relationships with women unless you want to jump through hoops and walk on eggshells every single day. And for what? If you follow Paul's advice and be assertive, she'll dump you and find someone who'll grovel and submit. And there is plenty of emasculated idiots out there who'll do everything that you won't do for her. MGTOW is the only way you don't lose." Fair enough. Every man is entitled to his opinion. I know guys who personally think this way, and it does make sense for them. I know a lot more guys, though, who hell or high water will seek long-term relationships. This includes men who identify as red pill. Like me, they won't get married, and they won't do anything else that puts them at risk of state control and abuse when it comes to a relationship. But they still seek to pair bond. So, with all respect to the cocoon that some men can tolerate where it concerns females, I'm going to interpret the comment with the much larger pair bonding population in mind. Let's start at the beginning. The message is simple, he says. Stay away from long-term relationships. So far, so good. I agree, he is putting things simply. No LTRs mean avoiding the complications that come with them. I wouldn't argue with that at all. My message is also simple. Doing the bitch ditch as soon as you see it is another valid approach even when seeking a long-term relationship. After all, red pill men are not stupid. They are more on top of things like female privilege, entitlement whores, and personality disorders than the average hombre. While the commenter and I are not in lockstep, there is not really a significant difference between us so far. Well, maybe there is. Let's re-examine that last sentence. Stay away from long-term relationships with women unless you want to jump through hoops and walk on eggshells every single day. And for what? What the ever-loving fuck? Now just hold on a minute here. Bear with me, because I think that line reveals more than the writer intended. So, men in long-term relationships have to jump through hoops. They must walk on eggshells. What? They don't have a choice? Their free will is gone? You know, what I see in this statement is clear. He is reflecting the often unspoken beliefs of most blue pill men. That is, you have to jump through hoops and walk on eggshells if you want to please her or get her to stay. And he confirms that in the very next statement. If you follow Paul's advice and be assertive, she'll dump you and find someone who'll grovel and submit, and there's plenty of emasculated idiots out there who'll do everything that you won't do for her. Okay, so what we have here is not a guy making a MGTOW argument against the legal and social dangers of marriage or even long-term relationships. What we have is just a man who has raised a white flag and accepted that his values don't stand a chance around a woman, that he isn't emotionally equipped to let go of a woman who doesn't respect him. Now, I'm well aware of the fact that there are enough women who expect you to jump through hoops to elect Hillary Clinton 10 times over. Entitled, arrogant women are the gold standard for the Western world, and exceptions are just that, exceptions. But remember, these are not legal issues. We are not even talking about marriage, common law or otherwise. We are not talking about legal vulnerabilities. The comment I am responding to is about emotional vulnerability and nothing else. With all respect to the commenter, I have to say that in the realm of emotions, men have choices. Building a wall around yourself is a perfectly acceptable one if that is what a man wants to do. But I don't advise projecting that fear-based decision as sound advice for every man around you. Oh my God, she'll leave you if you don't kiss her ass, doesn't exactly reek of a confident man. For fuck's sake, let her leave. It may cause some grief, but unless you have a ton of issues, it won't destroy you. There are many men who can enjoy relationships, even long-term ones, and survive the emotional fallout if the woman turns out to be a loser deep into the game. For any man who chooses and who is leading with his values, hoops and eggshells are deal breakers that show up early on. They are instant rule-outs for the conscious, non-gynocentric man. No doubt that good values will send a lot of women packing. If your self-respect is genuine, that is a lot more like letting yourself flick a booger out the car window than being torn apart by a loss. For Pete's sake, lose what? A hypergamous, manipulative, and controlling bitch? Getting rid of that is losing? How did so many men get to the totally insane and powerless point that 86ing a loser with a vagina is anyone's loss but hers? You know, I don't have a red pill handbook, but if I wrote one, that scenario would be in the chapter on winning. Getting a loserectomy whenever it's indicated is only a loss when you have an attachment to losers or an attachment to women that is so bloody gynocentric that it will have you gobbling a shit sandwich and asking for some chips to go with it. When I wheel my trash to the curb for pickup, I don't take Kleenex with me to wipe tears away. When something in my house breaks and I replace it, I feel good about the replacement. I don't have a sense of nostalgia or grief about the defective parts. They just go in the can with the rest of the trash. There is only one force on earth that can make someone see cutting a female tumor out as that big of a loss. Gynocentrism. Not just gynocentrism, but the equally anti-male institution of romantic love. We've covered this before. At 90 seconds into this video, you will see a link pop up to Chasing the Dragon, what I call the most important video on this channel. It gives you the lowdown. Romantic love isn't even a basic human instinct. It's a social construct put together by a couple of highfalutin women in the aristocracy 900 years ago. It spread like herpes in a whorehouse because men are so easily manipulated by attractive damsels. That is what created the need for the red pill. But just my opinion, part of the red pill is disabusing you of the notion that you are at the mercy of any of this shit. You do have free will, and you have choices to make about what you won't put up with. And you have the responsibility for making those choices. One of those choices that may be better for most men than life as a monk is to refuse to follow the psychotic path of infatuation and to refuse to confuse it with anything that might be called love. That's a big deal. Men sometimes kill themselves over relationship losses. They submerge in booze and drugs and other forms of slow death and destructive behavior too. Their depression in the midst of loss can be crippling. A lot of that is because they invest the wrong things emotionally and psychologically in women, and because they lack a counter-narrative to the romantic model to get them through loss and to lessen its intensity. The message here is that the path to surviving loss is simple and admittedly difficult, but doable. Lead with your values. Finish with them too. Realize that infatuation is insanity. Seek to cure it, not follow it. Romantic love and chivalry destroy your honor, your values, and leave you vulnerable to great pain and abuse. Hey guys, it's time for the weekly Thursday tip. Today's tip? Remember, the only deep grief you may have to face with women is your loss of your addiction to their approval. If you're like most men, seeking women's approval at all costs is the only narrative you've ever been taught. It has been embedded into our cultural consciousness for nearly a millennia. It is dug in and doesn't fall away easily, but for the man willing to educate himself and fiercely committed to his own dignity, it is completely possible. That's it for the tip of the week. As always, please like and share this video, sub to the channel, and if you like the work here, visit the Patreon page through the link in the low bar and kick in a pledge to help us keep the lights on. I hope you've enjoyed today's talk, even if you haven't, and we'll see you next time.